Okay, now let me spend some time on the oil game, and I'm going to take time on this. This is all borrowed material. I am unashamed, plagiarized. I plagiarized. I picked up thing, and but I'll explain. I'll put my 2 bits worth. That's what makes it interesting. Okay, that's what makes it researched. First and foremost, so far, I think this week onwards we're going to see this oil being blasted off. The Tehran oil reserves, the oil depot in Tehran, the Saharan oil depot. This is the picture. That's on fire at this point of time. Israel has hit them. Right? This is the second phase which is started. Will Iran hit the thing? Remember, Iran has already hit the Aramco refinery at Ras Tanura, which is the biggest there. Water. The next crux is water. Water is survival. Now, this guy did a fantastic analysis during the Venezuelan campaign on oil of Venezuela. Actually, based on that clip, I started going into it and I understood the whole story about the Venezuelan oil. So this now is about Iran war. Iran is not about oil alone. It is about oil. It is about gas. It is about sulfuric acid. It is about helium and more. Let's listen to it. And I will tell you the effects of what it means for us in India also. And we'll talk of the Indian angle as we go along after this. Yeah.
We're not yet a week in, but there's all sorts of implications that are already becoming clear for the global economy, also different parts of the world from what's happening in Iran. And
yeah, this chap says time for China to step in and protect their interests. I don't think they can. They're incapable of doing it. Let me be very honest. That's what I put out yesterday.
Just to kind of update on the various different events that have happened. What has been going on in the last few days is the kind of horror story that economists have been telling themselves for decades and decades about what is the worst single thing that can happen to the global economy. Well, it's kind of happening right now. So the Straits of Hormuz are effectively closed. I'll show you a chart on that in a second. You've got the world's biggest oil terminal that is basically down, Ras Tanura.
So the biggest oil terminal in the world, Ras Tanura, is down. The Qatar LNG fields are also down. They have closed it. Okay.
In Saudi Arabia. You've got the world's biggest gas terminal, Ras Laffan. That is down as well, all because of drone attacks from Iran. You've got tanker attacks all through the Gulf and particularly around the Straits, but including in the north end of the Persian Gulf. Like I say, this is the kind of thing that scary scenarios built by economists have been kind of talking about for years. But what's the impact? And this is where things get kind of interesting and nuanced, because you might have thought with that happening, the oil price would go crazy. And it's certainly gone a lot higher. Look at that, up by 15% in the last few days. But it hasn't gone up as much as the gas price. And here's what...
See, so look at this. The oil price has now gone beyond 80. When will it start pinching India? I mean, already it has pinched Pakistan, already gone. That we'll talk of Pakistan ka kya hoga. Yesterday also we did this in the evening, we spoke of Pakistan. At this point of time, we are still okay. It will not hit us. Okay, it won't actually. If I look at it, I don't think if our government is smart, they'll not let it hit our petrol price at the pump. Okay, I don't think so, because for all these days, for all the fluctuation, all the fall which was there in the oil price, we kept paying more. So the government has made enough money out of all of us. They should not. But if they do, our government will be unfair. But in the this is a micro thing for us. But in the macro system, I don't think it doesn't matter. Even if we go to $140 a barrel, it doesn't matter. Remember what I spoke of yesterday or day before? I think yesterday morning or day before yesterday morning, I spoke of this. and I showed a clip. When we were just a $1 trillion economy, we were paying $140 per barrel. Today, you are a $4 trillion economy, you can absorb it. So it's not a big deal. Okay, but let's go ahead.
Things get kind of interesting. So this is the gas price, actually in the UK, and that's up by 70%. And
so gas is the crux. Why gas is the crux? Because that LNG from Qatar comes to India. Oh, tomorrow, of course, industrial production will get hit, or industries will get hit, your economy will get hit, there's no doubt. But cooking gas, also remember, this is important. As we go along, today there's no gas, there's no petrol in the streets of Pakistan. Tomorrow there'll be no gas. Then what happens? Pakistan will be on the streets. The only thing is Pakistan has that Sui gas. They've got some gas. But will it last them out? I don't know. Okay.
See, at one point, you can see the lines just about come down. At one point, it was up by 100%. So it doubled. So why is there that difference between oil and gas? Well, in part, it's literally just a physical thing. It's quite hard to store gas. And so your kind of sensitivity to what's going on in the market is slightly greater. But to some extent, it's also something else. So if you look, for instance, at the oil market, it's quite well stocked at the moment. What do I mean?
So what he explains here is that the oil, everyone has stocked. It's got levels of stocking. And you can manage it. Okay? Not gas. So the demand is shot up, but not much.
By that? Well, this is showing you demand for oil in recent years, and then there's a kind of projection there. And then look at supply, so this red line here. And you can see supply recently has been running.
So supply has been ahead of demand. So oil-wise, I don't think we'll be in a big problem, but small countries will get squeezed out. Small countries like Pakistan, I mean, Pakistan is not a small country, but weak economies, small countries will get squeezed badly.
Above demand. So there's quite a lot of oil flowing out there. And, the corollary of that is that quite a lot of that has gone into storage. So stocks, oil stocks, every country around the world has some degree of oil storage.
So the crux is storage. You keep pumping out oil, you have to store it somewhere. But what happens after that storage is done? See, at this point of time, the ship storage in the Gulf is full. But empty ships are not coming to take the oil out. So oil is going into the storage of each country. One day that will get filled. The bigger problem is what if Iran attacks some of the storage facilities, like Israel has attacked the storage facilities. Then what will happen tomorrow is you don't have storage also. You don't have storage. Your wells will have to be capped. Now that has got its own dynamics. So the energy game is going to get complicated. Remember that.
Storage, easier to store, like I say, than it is gas. You can store gas, but it's just a bit harder. But oil stocks have been rising in the run-up to what's happening now in Iran. So there's a little bit of reassurance there that, look, for oil, we're kind of relatively well equipped as things go. However, it should be said, okay, so this is oil stocks mostly outside the Middle East, outside the Gulf. It's a totally different story if you're looking at oil stocks within the Middle East. Here, oil stocks are kind of a problem. Different countries here. Now,
so
these are all oil producers, so it's a different...
So this is the point. Storage within the Gulf itself is a problem because now the Gulf can't go out. And there's no other route out. The Red Sea route is not full. If the IMEC had been there, you wouldn't have had a problem. You could have shouted it out through the IMEC. You don't have. So now what will happen? Someone has asked what will happen IMEC. If tomorrow you want to avoid the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea thing, the IMEC has to come. So whose requirement is IMEC? Arabs and UAE and India and Europe. So the IMEC will come. You're in a situation where you can't move oil out. Oil is there, you can't move it out. But if the IMEC was there, it would go. So they'll say, please get the IMEC. Okay.
Have a certain amount of leeway, a certain amount of storage that they can put their oil into if they can't get it out. But it's not that much. So Iraq, 6 days, Kuwait, 14 days, the UAE, 19, and so on and so forth. And why does this matter? Okay, well, have a look at this. Okay, so most of these countries will be hoping to get their oil, and this is what has always happened. You drill your oil, you pump it out, and you ship it onto tankers through the Straits of Hormuz.
So if you want to take it through the Strait of Hormuz, at this point of time and deregulate everything, you have to capture the north bank of Strait of Hormuz, which I spoke 2 days back. So boots on ground here have to be put if you want oil to come out. Without that, oil won't come out. Okay, so understand that. Okay,
that's the way things work. But if you can't do that, if you can't get the oil out, then you have to do something, and you basically kind of exhaust all of that storage time. So in the case of Iraq, 6 days, and Kuwait, not much more. Then after that period, you have to do radical things like starting to shut down your production. And when you start shutting down production, that's a real problem for oil facilities. Sometimes you can cause long-term damage that basically means you're just not going to get as much oil out in the future. That's kind of what's happened in Venezuela recently. So there's real profound questions about how long this lasts and how long the Straits of Hormuz is essentially closed. And when I say essentially closed, well, there's been all this talk about, is it closed, isn't it closed? Well, this shows you tankers going in and out of Straits of Hormuz in recent months. Attacks begin. Look at what various consequences, that will kind of mount up the more time elapses. So incredibly important. Think about like jet fuel, kerosene.
See, look at this kerosene. This is aviation turbine fuel. Kerosene is ATF. The cost has gone up. The sourcing has gone up because you can't think. Kerosene has to be a regular flow. Okay, so your aviation industry is going to get hit. Travel is going to get hit. Okay,
up by 52%, and this is kind of a price actually measured in Singapore, up by 52%. So flights are going to get more expensive. Basically, right now they're going to be getting more expensive because that is an extraordinarily sharp increase. And why is that going up quite so quickly, more quickly than oil? It's because it's really hard to store kerosene.
You can't store ATF.
Pragmatic question
That's
about how much storage of this stuff.
And no one stores
not yet
ATF.
A week in.
Okay. No one stores ATF. Everyone stores oil. Everyone stores petrol. No one stores ATF. ATF is on the move.
Increase. And why is that going up quite so quickly? More fertilizer, kind of, getting 30%.
So the next problem is fertilizer. And for India, it's a problem because a lot of fertilizers come from there. Can you move that fertilizer through the land route? That's the only thing you can do. That means you're taking it off from Qatar down to UAE into Oman, Duqm, and then out. At least in fertilizer, you can move in trucks and also you have to move vehicles. Yeah, we'll see. Will we come to that?
Fertilizer that also comes from the Gulf. It passes through the Straits of Hormuz, anticipating that the prices are actually for the.
Oh, sorry. I have to go back, right? I'll go back.
We're not yet a week. Just outside.
Yeah, helium.
If you want to run an MRI scanner, well, that's not happening right now.
So helium also is a problem. Helium only major two sources are US and China. Oh, sorry, not China, Qatar. Helium out of Qatar is not going. US is self-sufficient, fine. And helium is not that you can pump out and suck it out and all. It
comes in
a limited quantity. So naturally, things like, a lot of things for helium are going to get hit.
So you're just not getting that. 1/3 of the world is
what is it?
Near absolute
Your MRI machines, anything which needs cooling, you need helium. You're in a problem. Okay? Right. Sulfuric acid, another industrial thing. See, all these red things are all from this area. So you're in a problem there also. course, China makes so much. Now, China will. The only good thing about sulfuric acid is China can't screw us because of this. There are others who can. You'll do something, but well, it's a problem. Your supply is getting squeezed, isn't it? Okay, so right. Then of course
And this is a place that has become central to global trade. A lot of trade coming from Europe kind of goes through Jebel Ali. And then
see the next point is what he makes later is this, that it's not a matter of everything going out, but all these countries need food, and the food also has to come through this Gulf of Hormuz only, or Strait of Hormuz. That's also blocked today. Okay.
food and grain that could in the Gulf, because this was the main place that was receiving all the shipments of food and grain that can no longer easily pass through the Straits of Hormuz. So it's not just a problem for those of us who live outside the Gulf. It is a big problem, maybe even bigger for those who live within the Gulf, because you've got questions of whether you can actually get that stuff, and you've got questions of what happens to the wider economy. A really good way of kind of illustrating this is thinking about the airports there. You might have traveled via Dubai.
Okay, so you see that it's just not oil. The oil play extends far beyond. Do we have any plans for it? No, we don't have plans for it. No one anticipated the Gulf of Hormuz will close this way. It's a doomsday scenario in many ways. Okay. Now, of course, USA is working on it. This is what he has to say. Yesterday also spoke of it. This is where India comes in. See, 4, 5, 10 years back, if you had said, what happens if the Gulf of Hormuz closes, you are in absolute deep problems. Okay, because of the Ukraine war, because of your equations with Russia, because of this, you have developed the capability of refining. You're becoming a refining power. But anyway, because you have refining capacity, oil from anywhere can come here, get refined, and go out. The two aspects, because there's a lot of refining capacity within the Gulf which is locked today. So what else existing outside the Gulf is Russian oil and Indian capacity. These have mated. So we heard this yesterday. I'll redo this again.
Floating Russian oil storage that's around southern Asia. It's China just backed up. China does not treat their suppliers well. So there's a bunch of floating barrels just sitting there. We've reached out to our friends in India and said, buy that oil, bring it into your refineries. That pulls stored oil immediately into Indian refineries and releases the pressure on other refineries around the world to buy oil that they're no longer competing with the Indians for in that marketplace. So we have a number of measures like that are short-term and temporary.
So he's saying short-term and temporary. What is short-term and what is temporary? So India has now come into the thing to keep the oil prices low, or I would say kept under control, and ensure some supply is on. It's your refineries which are giving, and Russian oil will come in. That they have said for 1 month you use, but the 1 month will go. We'll discuss how this whole story goes, because if that oil thing doesn't resume, they're in a problem. Russia will also be saying, okay, now you want all this, so the America will be concession though. So there's going to be reordering of whole stories. But if that is the case, if your oil is getting refined in India, you don't have a shortage. India doesn't have a shortage. That's why Pakistan will not get anything. पैसा नहीं है उसके पास. फ्री का माल खत्म हो गया पाकिस्तान को. कौन देगा अभी? From Gulf, people used to give them free ka mal. Now who will give them free ka mal? Right?
This is no change in policy towards Russia. This is a very brief change in policy just to keep oil prices down a little bit better.
So all these policies of USA of running, we're going to go through a change because things are evolving, and this is going to be the long haul. In this case, if it lasts 1 month, you'll see everyone, the whole story will change. By then, Trump will start losing his primaries. Remember that. And what is US game? This is US game. It's very clearly said out. And that, of course, I've been telling right from last year. Why Trump's game is very simple: oil.
This is a long-term game because what we want to do is get such massive oil reserves in Iran out of the hands of terrorists. And so what we're going to experience here in the short term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefit, because ultimately we're not going to have to worry about these issues in the Strait of Hormuz because we're going to get all of the oil out of the hands of terrorists.
So they want to get all the oil out of the hands of terrorists. Okay, that is the legitimate government of Iran. Will that happen? We'll see. But the American game is about oil, petrodollar, and oil control. If they control the global oil, they control China also. So today China is down because it doesn't have oil. It will collapse tomorrow. I mean, I won't say collapse, but things are there. But we've not spoken of that. We'll come to China today. There is something important about China we got to talk.
This is a long-term.
Then there's, of course, Garcetti. Garcetti, who was Garcetti, the previous ambassador? Now he talks of.
We kind of got past the ability of saying, oh, just follow America. You have to do exactly as we do. And we take the smaller victories. Like, actually, they bought Russian oil because we wanted somebody to buy Russian oil at a price cap. That was not a violation or anything. It was actually the design of the policy, because as a commodity, we didn't want oil prices going up. And they fulfilled that. During G20, they were able to take Russia to the side and say, take.
So he's talking of India and G20 and buying Russian oil. The policy of buying Russian oil was an international policy. And you bought that Russian oil and Russia invested in your Rosneft. And then you have increased the refining capacity here. And that capacity today is saving the world. So you are an oil power without having oil. They can't do without you. No one can do without you. So you have agency and leverage. I'm sure we'll talk of it. I mean, these things don't happen in cut and dried black and white things, but we'll talk of it.
Leave the statement, which was critical about Ukraine. It just took the word Russia out, but it was very clear. And we were able to deliver Europe. They were able to deliver Russia. That boxed in China. And it showed, again, this multiplicative relationship when we get together.
So we are very clear, where the oil play is going. What is India's role in it? So if you look at this, India won't have a shortage of anything. Because the byproducts of all, when you get oil and you refine it, you'll have ATB, AAO, everything. So you are okay. Of course, because the basic crude oil cost has gone up, this thing. Yeah, we'll be hit for fertilizers. You have to look for fertilizers elsewhere. All these problems. It's not as if we will not have problems. The rest of the world has problems. Those problems you will have, but you'll have lesser. That's the point. Which makes you more powerful, more influential, more bargain room. And of course, you have guys like this who came and say, we will cap your rise, all that. Fine, we'll handle it. We'll handle it the way we have to. Okay. But interesting, let's get to what else is happening. Turkey and Pakistan have spoken to each other. Why have they spoken? We'll have to see how this whole story pans out. Okay? Right. So, but the real interesting thing is China. The real interesting thing is China. So listen to that.
Now, there are reports that China's
this
leadership...
is Gordon Chang. Okay. You just listen to what Gordon Chang has to say. Right.
was caught off guard by these strikes, including from professors and government advisors inside Beijing. First, big picture, what are the implications for China's political apparatus following these strikes in Iran?
The problem for the Chinese regime is that the Chinese people can see what's going on in Iran with all of those protests. And if the regime fails, then I think you're going to see Beijing very worried. They were very worried when the Soviet Union fell. They were very worried during the Jasmine Revolution. All of these quote unquote color revolutions really just get the Chinese regime where it lives. And Xi Jinping has talked about this in secret Communist Party meetings, especially the one in December of 2012, where he talked about the defense of communism.
I want to get into that, but first, in terms of economic impacts, reports say China gets about half of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz, buying nearly all of Iran sanctioned oil. We've seen China halt diesel and gas exports, and now there are reports of tankers declaring themselves Chinese to not get hit. How significant is this strait to China economically, especially if this goes on for a while?
The Chinese economy is eroding fast, and at the same time, you have this hit on energy. So, for instance, in the last few days, we know that gasoline prices spiked 11.0%. But more important for the Chinese economy.
See, the most important point of what Gordon Chang is saying is the first part. I'll replay that.
First, big picture following these strikes in Iran.
The problem for the Chinese regime is that the Chinese people can see what's going on in Iran with all of those protests. And if the regime fails, then I think you're going to see Beijing very worried. They were very worried when the Soviet Union fell. They were very worried during the Jasmine Revolution. All of these quote unquote color revolutions really just get the Chinese regime where it lives. And Xi Jinping has talked about this in secret.
See, one thing the Chinese are worried about is color revolution. Xi Jinping has repeatedly, what Gordon Chang says is right. Xi Jinping has spoken about it even in Kazakhstan. When he went first to USA before he was a president, when he was a vice president, he had a lot of discussion with Americans on the whole story of color, revolutions. He discussed. Okay, he is worried, and any instability in any of these people happening and regime changes of big countries will affect China. And if that, as it is, China is in a mess at this point of time. I'm not joking. I have done a lot of research. China is in a complete political mess at this point of time, and it is vulnerable to regime change. Whether it's an internal regime change of the CCP, we know Zhang Yukja, that story, 72 generals sacked, yesterday also 9 military officials sacked. They are in a terrible mess. Okay, so any time that can go, and if this domino effect from here happens into China, then this thing, see, whether we like it or not, China is part of global supply chains in a big way. China has to export out. If it doesn't export, a lot of things in all our countries will not be available. So there's a bigger thing which is happening, and we have to be clear of it. What will happen to China, we know now. China is going to have a lot of problems. We've discussed it. I did it yesterday in the morning with Sri Iyer, and I put that China thing out. Have a look at it. The macro issue of China is going to go in a southward direction. But what about the global affair? The world is still dependent on China for many things. So we'll see that. We'll see when we cross that. Right.
You're now there.
Then, of course, what's happening in Pakistan? Listen to this.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, शहर सियालकोट में इस वक्त मौजूदा सूरत हाल से आपको आगाह करने जा रहे हैं। इस वक्त सियालकोट कश्मीर रोड पे ऑलमोस्ट सभी पेट्रोल पंप हैं, वहां पे इतनी ज्यादा ट्रैफिक है कि इतनी लंबी और इतनी बड़ी लाइनें हैं कि घंटों बाद जो है ना वो आपको पेट्रोल दिया जा रहा है। आपकी बारी आ रही है, देखें सियालकोट में इतनी बड़ी तादाद में लोग पेट्रोल पंप का रुख कर रहे हैं और ये बड़ी बड़ी लंबी कतारें आपको दूर दराज तक नजर आ रही होंगी। ये क्या वजह बनी है पेट्रोल की शॉर्टेज होने?
So there's a severe shortage of petrol in Pakistan. Very clear. This is from Sialkot. It could be from any other place. There are pictures like this floating all around. Actually that's a deluge. All this while Pakistan went and licked USA throughout its existence. And they just took bones which were being thrown. That's it. Now they don't have any capacity. If they don't have things by, say, next 3-4 days, people will be on the streets. What about gas? Gas and fuel, if it's not there in Pakistan the next 3-4 days, people will be out on the streets. Already people are out on the streets with 2-kilometer long lines to get petrol once. We'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm not going to make a prediction that Pakistan, but these are difficult conditions, and guys like Asim Munir don't have the thing to resolve it. Okay, now yesterday I showed one chap saying, "Look, we are the next target." Here it is again within their assembly in Pakistan. This is what he says.
वतन की फिक्र कर नादा मुसीबत आने वाली है तेरी बर्बादियों के मशवरे हैं आसमानों में आप क्या समझते हैं कि क्या सिर्फ ईरान निशाना है ईरान बहाना है पाकिस्तान निशाना है
So Iran bahana hai, Pakistan nishana hai. They are living in funk, complete funk.
आज से बहुत साल पहले इसराइल ही के वजीर आजम डेविड गोरियन ने पेरिस में ये बात की थी पिछले दिनों हमारे अपोजिशन लीडर अचकजई साहब ने भी इनका जिक्र किया तो मैं गोरियन के उस बयान का सही हवाला यहां दे दूं उसने पेरिस में सोरबोन यूनिवर्सिटी में ये कहा था कि पाकिस्तान हमारा नजरियाती जवाब है और ये हमारे हलीफ मुल्क दोस्त मुल्क भारत को तोड़ के बनाया गया ये ताल्लुक है भारत का और इसराइल का अल्टीमेटली खुदा न खास्ता अगर ईरान को नुकसान पहुंचता है तो ये नुकसान फिर पाकिस्तान का होगा अगर किसी का ये ख्याल है कि ये हमला शिया इस्लाम पे है ये हमला इस्लाम पे है इस्लाम में
So they are funked. All kinds of nonsense are coming out. And if that is combined with all this, the funk which they have, with people not getting petrol on the streets and things like that, anything can happen in Pakistan. And if anything happens in Pakistan, look, I'm not bothered about anything can happen in Pakistan. The more interesting thing is how will Pakistan handle it? Will they try to externalize? That's the point. And we have to be careful about it. There are people also, this is the time we go and invade Pakistan. Chodo yaar, usko chodo, let him let it. Internally, he's getting killed. Yesterday, you see that video which I did. He's got no water. He's got no oil. He's got problems. He doesn't have money. He's not got money. Saudis have said, we'll not give you any more money. They have got problems in Gilgit-Baltistan. They're saying Murdabad, Murdabad. They have got problems in, Pashtunistan or Pashtun areas. They've got problem in Baluch areas. They've got these problems. So, jayega kahan wo? And of course, Imran Khan is sitting inside. But any day now, if there's political pressure and Imran Khan comes out, that whole country will be in turmoil. So, we'll leave that. But there's a problem. Okay. But there's a ray here. I want to spend the last 2 minutes on this and then we'll take questions. Nepal. Ray of good hope. You know that there's a new government which is going into place. 5th March, there were elections. That Rashtriya Swatantrata Party, right, has come into power. For the first time, they're going to get a party which has got full powers. You see, the Nepal parliament is a proportional representative mixed kind of a parliament where half of the seats are half or I don't know how many are direct election. The other is proportional representation based on the number of votes they've got. As a result of this, Nepal has never had a single party government. It has been a coalition for the past 10-15 years. For the first time, Balender Shah will have a single party government which can last 5 years. Okay. And these are the times when we help them. And we already started helping them. We've told them we'll give them adequate gas, everything, take care of them. These things no one will forget because China can't give them. China can't give them oil. China can't give them gas. It's only India. What does this tweet says? India has assured us, this is from them, there will be no disruption in fuel supplies. As this is Nepal Oil Corporation. They've spoken to Sputnik. Our consumption is around 1 lakh cylinders per day, and we are getting that from Indian Oil. Help them out. So we have huge equities in our neighborhood, and we can help them. I'll put it this way: even Bangladeshis. You see what's happening in Bangladesh. You have to understand that BNP is doing something. Maybe I wouldn't say too positive, but at this point of time, they are putting the Jamaat down slowly. Though Jamaat is trying, they're pushing them down. If that happens, and we can help the Bangladeshis out in a deal, it's not that one-way help which we used to give earlier, but you can deal with the Bangladeshis and get a good thing. Things are okay, right? So I think with this, all my whatever I had to say today, I have said, right? And I do hope you like this. It's a bit long, but I think it's worth it because we need to understand what's happening. Because I've put the update with a weekly review, where the first week is over. And I've given you the thing about oil and how things are happening. So I'd like to take some questions and we'll